The Lost Boys wasn't supposed to work. It was too weird, too chaotic, too much. The studio bought a Peter Pan vampire script for kids, then rewrote it 5 times for teenagers. The lead actor rejected it repeatedly. The original director bailed, and somehow it became a cult classic. Behind the scenes, brutal rewrites, a town that hated them, an emergency script doctor, and one very reluctant star. Here are 20 weird facts about The Lost Boys you didn't know, and they're stranger than fiction. Number 1. This entire movie started with a wild theory about a children's book. Screenwriter James Jeremias was reading Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire in the early 1980s when something clicked. He'd loved Peter Pan his entire life, and suddenly he saw it differently. Peter Pan comes out at night, he flies, he never grows up, and he steals children from their beds. What if Peter Pan was a vampire? Jeremias pitched it to his writing partner Janice Fisher. They built an entire screenplay around it. Dark Peter Pan, blood-drinking Lost Boys, a Neverland made of fangs. Warner Brothers bought the script in 1985 for a staggering $375,000. Massive money for an unknown script at the time. But the studio had other plans. Number 2. The first draft was designed for literal children. When Richard Donner, fresh off directing The Goonies, signed on, he shaped the script as a kid's adventure. The vampires were supposed to be 13 or 14 years old. The Frog Brothers? Chubby 8-year-old Cub Scouts. And Star wasn't a love interest. Star was a boy. The entire movie was imagined as a PG-rated romp through vampire lore with preteen heroes hunting preteen monsters. Think Goonies meets Fright Night, but way younger. Donner loved it. The writers loved it. Warner Brothers did not. The studio looked at the kiddie vampire script and said, make them older, make it sexy, make it sellable. And that's when everything fell apart. Number 3. Warner Brothers turned this into a rewrite nightmare. After spending $375,000 on the script, executives panicked. A movie about 13-year-old vampires? Too niche. Too weird. Not enough box office appeal. So they demanded changes, massive ones. Make the characters older, add romance, amp up the violence, turn the cute adventure into something dark, sexy, and R-rated. Richard Donner tried to make it work. He brought in acclaimed screenwriter Jeffrey Boehm, the guy who'd later write Lethal Weapon 2 and Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade, to do an emergency rewrite. But Donner couldn't crack it. The cute kid script and the sexy teen thriller kept clashing. So Donner bailed. He left to direct Lethal Weapon instead, a movie with a finished script. The project nearly collapsed. The writers called the process brutal. Most of their original vision was gutted. Warner Brothers was stuck with a half-rewritten mess and no director. Number 4. One character change rewrote the entire plot. In the original script, Star was a young boy, another lost boy that Michael befriends and tries to save. No romance, no love triangle, just 2 kids trying to escape vampirism. But when the studio demanded older, sexier characters, they made a call. Flip Star to a girl. Make her a love interest. Add sexual tension. This wasn't a small tweak. It was a narrative earthquake. The writers, Janice Fisher and James Jeremias, had to completely overhaul Michael's motivation, his relationship with David, and the emotional core of the story. The entire plot hinged on a friendship. Now it hinged on desire. The studio wanted heat, they got it. But the original Peter Pan metaphor, lost boys helping lost boys, was gone. And the writers? They were working on other projects. They couldn't even be there to fix it. Number 5. This project was in total freefall. By 1986, The Lost Boys was a disaster. Donner was gone. The script was a Frankenstein's monster of rewrites. The original writers were unavailable. Warner Brothers was ready to kill it. Enter Joel Schumacher. Schumacher, who'd just directed St. Elmo's Fire, was pitched the project over lunch. He read the script and he hated it. Too kid-friendly, too safe, too G-rated, as he put it. But Schumacher saw potential. He told the studio, "Give me Jeffrey Boehm again. Let me make this dangerous." Boehm rewrote the script one more time. This time with Schumacher's vision: leather jackets, sexual tension, violent kills, and a soundtrack dripping with 1980s edge. It nearly didn't happen, but somehow Schumacher pulled it from the wreckage. The cute Peter Pan vampire movie was dead. The cult classic was born. Number 6. The lead actor rejected this role. Over and over and over, Joel Schumacher wanted Jason Patric for Michael from day one. Patrick was young, brooding, intense, perfect for a kid seduced by vampires. But Patrick wanted nothing to do with it. He turned it down, multiple times. Sources say he rejected the role at least 5 times, maybe more. Why? He thought a teen vampire movie was beneath him. He'd just done Solar Babies, a cult flop, and didn't want another weird genre project. Schumacher kept pushing. He promised Patrick creative input. He promised the cast could shape their characters. He swore it wouldn't be cheesy. Eventually, Patrick caved. But here's the twist. Once he signed on, Patrick became instrumental in reshaping the script. He worked directly with Schumacher to rewrite scenes. He even convinced the director to cast Jamie Gertz as star, his co-star from Solar Babies. The guy who hated the movie ended up saving it. And according to Kiefer Sutherland, Patrick's instincts were dead on. Number 7. Constant rewrites. Frustrated actors, a director scrambling to hold it together. By the time cameras rolled, the cast was exhausted. The script had been rewritten so many times that nobody knew what movie they were making anymore. Corey Feldman and the other actors were getting script changes overnight. Characters were being adjusted mid-shoot. The tone kept shifting. Darker, then lighter, then darker again. Schumacher's vision clashed with the crew. Some threatened to walk. The film was supposed to be a smooth production. Instead, it was a battlefield. Actors were confused, the crew was tense, and somehow Schumacher kept it from imploding. But the chaos shows. If you watch closely, you can see the seams, moments where the kid-friendly adventure bleeds into the adult thriller. That messy energy? It's part of what makes the movie feel so alive. Number 8. The script was changing faster than the actors could memorize it. This wasn't just a few tweaks, this was nightly chaos. Entire scenes were being rewritten, character arcs were shifting, dialogue was being punched up on the fly. Corey Feldman later said he'd show up to set with one version of a scene and leave having filmed something completely different. The cast had to stay flexible, some thrived on it. Others were furious. It created an unpredictable energy on set. Nobody knew what was coming next, which ironically matched the vibe of the vampires themselves. Schumacher was gambling that controlled chaos would create something electric. He was right, but it nearly broke the production. Number 9. Changing star from a boy to a girl didn't just rewrite the plot, it rewrote everything. The studio forced the gender swap mid-development, but when production started, the cast had to adjust on the fly. Suddenly, Michael's entire motivation changed. His relationship with David went from friendship to rivalry. The emotional stakes shifted from loyalty to lust. Scenes had to be reshot. Costumes had to be adjusted. Jamie Gertz, who replaced the waifish blonde Schumacher originally envisioned, had to figure out a character that was still being written. The movie benefited from it. The sexual tension between Michael and Star is electric, but it was chaos getting there. Number 10. The town tried to kill the movie. The Lost Boys was filmed in Santa Cruz, California. The boardwalk, the beaches, the cliffs. It's all real. But Santa Cruz had a problem. In the 1970s, 3 different serial killers terrorized the town. Ed Kemper, Herbert Mullen, John Linley Frazier. Over 30 months, 28 people were murdered. Santa Cruz was nicknamed the murder capital of the world. The wounds were still fresh in 1987. And here comes a movie crew wanting to put that nickname in the film, spray painted on a billboard. City officials were furious. They didn't want their town associated with vampires and murder. They demanded changes. So the filmmakers made a deal. They'd rename the town. Santa Cruz became the fictional Santa Carla. The crew built a fake "Welcome to Santa Carla" sign, and on the back, the infamous graffiti, "Murder Capital of the World." Santa Cruz got plausible deniability. The movie got its edge. But the tension was real. Negotiations turned into bizarre, legal battles. Production was almost shut down. The town didn't want vampires. The vampires didn't care. Number 11. When the movie aged up, one child was left behind. Remember Laddie, the little blonde vampire kid Star's protecting? He's a relic. In the original kid-friendly script, all the vampires were supposed to be children. When the studio demanded older characters, most of the child vampires were cut or aged up. But Laddie stayed. He's a remnant of the Peter Pan concept. The only kid vampire in a movie full of teen bloodsuckers. His presence is weird if you think about it. He doesn't fit the vibe. He's too young, too innocent. But that's the point. He's a ghost of the movie that almost was. Number 12. Aging up the characters meant redoing everything. When the vampires went from 13-year-olds to 18-year-olds, the costumes had to change. Fast. Leather jackets replaced hoodies. The Frog Brothers went from Cub Scout uniforms to Army surplus gear. Star's wardrobe got sexier, but the production was already underway. So costume designers were scrambling to create new looks while filming continued. Some scenes show visual continuity issues, slight differences in jackets, accessories, props, because they were literally being rebuilt between takes. The chaos created a scrappy punk aesthetic that worked, but it was an accident. Number 13. Edgar and Alan Frog were supposed to be children. In the original script, the Frog Brothers weren't cool teenage vampire hunters. They were identical 8-year-old twins. Chubby Cub Scouts obsessed with comic books. When the characters aged up, Corey Feldman and Jameson Newlander had to figure out how to play older versions of kid characters. That's why their dialogue is so weird. Lines like "death by stereo" and their obsessive commitment to vampire lore feel like kids playing dress-up, because that's exactly what they were supposed to be. Feldman was told to watch Rambo and model his performance on action heroes. He played Edgar dead serious, a kid pretending to be a soldier. It works because it's absurd, but the absurdity was accidental. Those line readings? Leftovers from the kid script. Number 14. The entire dynamic between Michael and David was invented late. In early drafts, Michael wasn't being seduced by a rival. He was befriending a child vampire leader. Think Peter Pan recruiting another lost boy. When the characters aged up and Star became a girl, the Michael-David relationship had to be completely reimagined. Now it's a rivalry. David is the cool bad boy. Michael is the outsider trying to fit in. Star is the prize. But that wasn't written until late in production. Schumacher and the actors, especially Jason Patric and Kiefer Sutherland, rewrote their scenes on the fly. The tension, the mind games, the homoerotic subtext, all improvised during filming. Some of their best moments were created while cameras were rolling. Number 15. The most iconic death in the movie wasn't in the script. David's death, impaled on Grandpa's taxidermy antlers, was added during editing. Why? Because the original head vampire reveal was changed so late in production, and that the ending didn't make sense. Early cuts left narrative gaps. Michael needed a big hero moment, and the filmmakers needed a visual punctuation mark. So they added the antler kill. It's absurd. It's campy. It's perfect. And it was never supposed to happen. Number 16. Joel Schumacher had plans for a female vampire sequel. Before the movie even came out, Schumacher was pitching The Lost Girls, a spin-off focusing on a gang of female vampires. He envisioned the same rebellious energy but flipped. Teen girls as predators, a matriarchal vampire clan. Warner Brothers rejected it immediately. Their reasoning? Vampire movies were a boys' genre. Female-led horror wouldn't sell. Schumacher was furious. He believed the idea had legs. Decades later, Hollywood proved him right. Twilight, Buffy, and dozens of female-driven vampire stories dominated pop culture. But in 1987, the studio wasn't interested. The Lost Girls never happened. Number 17. Joss Whedon straight up copied this movie. Whedon has openly credited The Lost Boys as foundational for Buffy, the suburban vampires, the teenage rebellion, the idea that vampires look human until they vamp out. That transformation? Stolen directly from this movie. Whedon told interviewers that Michael's half-vampire state inspired Angel's tortured backstory. Kiefer Sutherland's David inspired Spike, right down to the leather jacket and bad boy swagger. Even the phrase vamp out came from The Lost Boys. Without this movie, Buffy doesn't exist. And without Buffy, modern vampire culture looks completely different. One chaotic 1987 thriller accidentally birthed an entire genre. Number 18. Film scholars won't shut up about this movie. The Lost Boys is now analyzed in academic papers as a radical critique of the nuclear family, suburban alienation, and queer-coded chosen families. The vampires reject traditional family structures. They create their own tribe. The homoerotic tension between David and Michael is studied as subversive 1980s queer cinema. Modern commentators see it as ahead of its time, a film that accidentally deconstructed Reagan-era family values while pretending to be a popcorn thriller. Schumacher, who was openly gay, layered subtext throughout the film, even if the studio didn't notice. What was once a teen vampire movie is now taught in universities. Who saw that coming? Number 19. Warner Brothers tried to milk it twice and failed badly. Decades after the original, the studio released two direct-to-video sequels, The Tribe in 2008 and The Thirst in 2010. Both were shot without Schumacher. Both were critically destroyed. The original cast publicly trashed them. Corey Feldman called them shameful cash grabs. Neither were filmed in Santa Cruz. Neither captured the chaotic magic of the original. Fans pretend they don't exist. Warner Brothers keeps trying to reboot it. A TV series has been in development hell for years, but every attempt crashes. The original was lightning in a bottle. You can't manufacture that kind of chaos twice. Number 20. This movie was a disaster that became a masterpiece, a script rewritten 5 times, a lead actor who hated it, a director who thought it was too kiddie, a town that tried to shut it down, a production drowning in chaos. The Lost Boys had no right to succeed, but it made over $32 million on an $8.5 million budget. It launched careers. It redefined vampires for a generation. It's on every best vampire movie list. It inspired Buffy. It's studied in film schools, and it started as a Peter Pan fanfic. The lesson: sometimes the most broken productions create the most unforgettable art. The Lost Boys was a beautiful disaster, and that's exactly why it worked. It started as a kid's adventure, it became a cult phenomenon, and behind the scenes, it was pure chaos. If you're into weird Hollywood secrets, impossible productions, and movies that shouldn't exist, hit subscribe, because we're just getting started. And remember, one thing about living in Santa Carla you could never stomach: all the damn vampires.